Good morning, Gamecocks. Welcome into Coffee, episode 4, actually, Thursday, January 16th. Uh, Good morning again to all of you out there. Appreciate you guys listening. Listen to what I have to say every morning on the South Carolina Gamecocks right here, Chief Sports South Carolina. If you're listening on the Inside the Gamecocks podcast stream, we appreciate you as well. So some news came across yesterday that we kind of were made aware of at thebigspur.com on Monday. I think Hale McGranahan talked about it a little bit, teased it for some of you guys that are Big Spur members. Um, I'm reminded of the scene in the movie Braveheart. Some of you younger people out there, that movie is 30 years old. I can't, 31 actually. It's astonishing. Sometimes when you look back, it doesn't seem like it's been that long. As Mel Gibson in it, it's about a Scottish warrior, former Gamecock quarterback Steven Garcia. That was his favorite movie. It's really good. You're probably familiar with it, but I'm reminded of that scene. It's the first battle where he gives the big speech. They may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom. And he goes out on his horse while they're negotiating terms before the battle, and goes and insults the English, and then they start talking again and ignoring him, and he goes, "I'm not finished." Well, that's kind of like the Gamecocks in the transfer portal, right? I'm not finished. It's a great line. I'll always remember that. And the Gamecocks aren't finished, apparently, at least in terms of targeting another player. And this happens. We're going to see this transfer portal thing, folks, stretch out a little bit. I think because of the college football playoff, and that's exactly what happened here. Penn State wide receiver Harrison Wallace III, their leading receiver off a college football playoff semifinal team. Whether or not their schedule was light enough and their path to the semis was, you know, I mean, Boise State and SMU. So good for them. At least they made it to the semis and lost a heartbreaker to Notre Dame in the Orange Bowl, where their receivers did not perform well at all. I don't think their receivers had any catches in that game. It's weird. But this guy was the leading receiver for the Penn State Nittany Lions this past year. He lit West Virginia in the opener on fire. I had a chance to watch that game. It was on before Carolina that first weekend of the season. I was like, man, this guy looks really good. Kind of a guy that developed through time into what he was. 46 catches, 720 yards, 4 touchdowns for Harrison Wallace III this year in State College. Of course, they threw the tight end a whole lot this season, and there's another receiver on their team that was pretty good as well. So, it wasn't like they were a passing juggernaut either, but I don't know that that's all on the receivers. Drew Allard was, kind of inconsistent throwing the ball at times, as we all know. Good player, but it sort of is what it is. So I'll give you kind of the backstory here. We got a text about him early in the week, right at the time he went into the portal. So this was kind of a situation where sometimes guys get in the portal and you kind of you don't know if the team you follow, if the coaching staff's going to bite or if they're going to go. I mean, we all are still kind of feeling our way as far as how to cover this thing, how to evaluate this thing properly, and I think the coaches are trying to figure out, how to target this thing. It's a lot of trial and error across the country. I'm speaking generally. I think Shane Beamer and his staff at South Carolina have been masterful with how they've handled the transfer portal. But so it's a kind of a good sign from based on the limited experience I've had sniffing around in the portal. It's a good sign that the coaching staff at a particular school likes a player. At certain schools, so some schools throw out offers to everybody if they kind of jump in immediately. And South Carolina, there wasn't anything that really fired them up at receiver in this window A. They were going to just go through spring and still may. I mean, there's nothing that says Wallace is coming to South Carolina. He's going to visit. But you look at it, and they were going to kind of look at all these freshmen, and kind of look at the guys they got coming back. There's four guys coming back that are, had good years and flashed at times. Uh, a lot of inconsistency there. You had, and I'll talk about those guys in a second. Let me get done with Wallace because I tend to jump all over the place. My wife told me not to do that as much. But they have four coming back, and so you look at it like that, and you looked around the portal, and there are a lot of good receivers, not a lot of really good ones, and a lot of them wanted stupid money, which is stupid for any school to really do, unless you just got it to burn. I mean, that's fine. But this guy is one that they jumped on. So they must like him. He is originally from Pike Road, Alabama. Now that's important. It's important for this reason. And I'll tell you this right now, because as we know, the the director of player personnel, Darren Usher, he was at Auburn under Brian Harsin. And if you notice, there's a linebacker for 2026 committed to Carolina, Keenan Britt, and he's from Alabama. So there's probably, and Aaron Nolan was another guy that Darren knew from back in the day. Harrison was a 2021 recruit. I believe that staff was new there at the time. He enrolled in May of 2021, so he was kind of a late bloomer. Was originally committed to Duke before Penn State flipped him late. So is there this deep relationship there with Usher and Harrison? I don't know, because Darren would have just been getting to Auburn at the time. However, he's probably got a working familiarity with Alabama prospects, and there you go. That's probably one of the reasons they were aware. The other reason is they may have just scouted him and said, "Hey, we like him." Just on the note of Duke and basketball players from the state of Alabama, that formula paid off pretty well for Duke. And I know Duke didn't get him, but they had him up until December. And 9 days later, he flipped to Penn State. Riley Leonard, who's a quarterback at Notre Dame, is going to play for a national championship, was a basketball player out of Alabama. We've heard that a million times on the broadcast, right? So this guy's been really an emerging player. Came in 2021, was a four-star prospect for 24/7 Sports, kind of a sleeper dude, I would say, that kind of somebody there liked and put a four-star on. We remember the 2021 class was a little difficult to evaluate to a certain extent because of COVID and all that. So he went right on up at Penn State and emerged as what he is this year. Good hands, good speed, good explosiveness. It is South Carolina. It is Texas A&M will get a visit. Louisville will get a visit, and North Carolina will get a visit. And North Carolina is pretty interesting because they've got some slots with Chapel Bill up there. And he seems like the kind of guy Belichick would be salivating over a little bit. But good hands, explosive, you're kind of like only had -3 yards against Notre Dame, but they struggled. I don't know, the receivers sort of struggled in that ball game all the way around. But against top 25 teams, 9 receptions for 142 yards and a touchdown this year. Just a guy, like I said, that kind of emerged. Did redshirt in 2021. In 22, 19 for 273 and 1. 23, 19 for 228 and 1. And then this year, 46 for 720 and 4. So he really sort of emerged and all that. Just a really solid, good guy. And if he can continue his trajectory at South Carolina or A&M or Chapel Hill or wherever else, I think he can be just continue to build on that. Probably not the type of player that's ready to go into the NFL. And that's another beautiful thing about the transfer portal is that these guys that are borderline that, yeah, gosh, I've been in college 4 years, I've got a degree. Okay, well, um, I'll just go to the draft, and then they don't get drafted, and then they're undrafted free agents are getting cut. They're going to city. This type, the portal here can, number one, it can make you a little money. Number two, if you want to leave, you can kind of get another perspective on your development, and then get closer to that NFL dream, I would imagine. So I think that when you look at it from that perspective, um, that it's a good thing for some players, and it's not, even an NIL kind of factors in it too, because even if you stay at your school you started at, you're going to make a little money and get a little better. Um, some guys kind of opt for that next perspective though, or that, the other perspective. So I think that's a positive thing that's come out of all this craziness in college football. But I mean, he would come in and battle for a starting spot right away. I like the fact Carolina got on him early. I like the fact they're part of the round of visits. You sort of sometimes look at guys that say they're going to visit four schools in the portal. They go to one school, they sign, and that's it. Sometimes that's worked out in the Gamecocks' favor. Sometimes it's not. So there's no guarantee he's going to show up. I believe he will. And here's another thing the Gamecocks have an advantage on. This guy's been at State College, Pennsylvania for 4 years. He's from Pike Road, Alabama, which is about 24 miles southeast of Montgomery. So you're taking I-85, right? To get, or you're hitting 65. Because 65 and 85, I-85 actually ends in Montgomery. If you've ever driven to New Orleans from South Carolina, you know what I'm talking about. Um, so College Station, Texas, is 11 hours from Montgomery. Louisville actually is closer than I thought, but yeah, it makes sense if you just go straight up 65 through Alabama and Tennessee, through Nashville and get there. I've made that drive many times. Up 65, 7 hours, 7 minutes. Chapel Hill is on the other, all the way up 85 from Montgomery to the Triad. It's 8 hours, 18 minutes. South Carolina, Columbia, 5 hours, 26 minutes. You just go straight up 85 through Atlanta and then get on one of the worst drives known to man, I-20 between Atlanta and Columbia, South Carolina. It's like you blink and there's Augusta, and then you blink again, and then you're in Columbia. But not the quickest drive in the world. Sometimes I'd even go up like through Greenville and get on 85 just because there's more stuff along the way. It's just one of those things. I hate that drive between Columbia and Atlanta on 20. Oh, but anyway, hopefully Harrison Wallace III does not. I don't know. I think sometimes patience is a virtue in the transfer portal. I think that it's good not to take a guy, just take a guy, because it's constant, and it's unlike high school recruiting where you have a class of guys. They're all kind of roughly the same age, at least in the same grade, same point in their football career, and then everybody picks, tries to get the best ones. The portal, you have guys coming in and out all the time. It's not all you don't ever have a set group at one period. Well, this is these are the players until every team's done playing. Now, teams are playing until January 20th. So who knows? And sometimes patience works out for you because, and then there's another period. Now they're talking about eliminating the second period and then moving all of portal season to January 2nd through 12th. That's what the American Football Coaches Association recommended. I'll say this, they don't always listen to the coaches. The NCAA, all this, the coaches do and recommend things what are 100% what's best for the coaches. And we know they haven't been doing anything that's best for the coaches in a long time. So we'll see as that gets run up the flagpole how that works out. Hopefully it does because they have to do something um, with the portal window because it was a bad look like when the backup quarterback from Penn State, and of course I think he's going to Missouri. I think he'll start at Missouri this year. Leaves in the middle of a playoff run, just because with quarterbacks, you want to get your spot, and he had to go get his spot. So anyway, that was a bad look as far as the people that are running the transfer portal goes. But Mike Fury does a great job recruiting. Obviously, portal decisions are about more than great relationships. I like the proximity to home factor here. I like the fact this is a guy out of the state of Alabama that they found at Duke, David Cutcliffe and his staff. Cutcliffe's from Alabama, and they did a good job mining that state. You could get good players. James Franklin and company just found him and flipped him. It's daunting sometimes going up against A&M. Louisville's very good in the portal. You have to think North Carolina is going to strike at some point with a good player. With the resources they have, maybe they overpay. Who knows? But I like where something tells me it's like where the Gamecocks are at here. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he doesn't even visit. But I think that for those of you that were really hoping they would sign a legit number one receiver from another school in the portal, this was Penn State's leading receiver. I think that's somebody that can make Lenore Sellers pretty happy. Now, is he the 6'4" jump up and get it guy that I thought and everybody else thought? Well, that's what's missing here. No, he's not. He's 6'1", big bodied kid though, 298 pounds, and is good enough. I mean, obviously, good player. It's a good group. I know everybody's excited about it. If I have any hesitancy at all, it's probably the 2007 class, which is 18 years ago, coming back because Carolina signed. That was the best class on paper as far as numbers and rankings and stuff like that goes. And I evaluated a lot of those guys at rivals.com. Me and another guy were the ones putting the rankings on them, and I wasn't the only one. I mean, ESPN had that class fourth or sixth, something like that in the country. And a lot of it was because of the receiving class. And they just, a guy here, a guy there. Deion LaCorn did some things. Jason Barnes did some things. A lot of the other guys did not. So it's just one of those classes that did not work out as far as that position goes. A lot of really great players that helped elevate the program from that class. It was a large class. It was like 33 guys. But that's probably like just that's stuck in my head because the volume of receivers has not been as high. Volume of highly ranked receivers has not been like that in 18 recruiting cycles. And it's probably because with the exception of the end of the Muschamp era and the beginning of the Beamer era, South Carolina's recruited well at receiver. They've always got a guy or two or three that really step up, most of them from Penn State. So it hadn't really been a position where it's like, man, we got to flip this room. And when getting that many guys, including two to graduate early, which is a godsend. I think you're obviously looking to kind of restock the cupboard a little bit. So Harrison Wallace III visiting South Carolina along with A&M, North Carolina, and Louisville. Bone to the hardwood, Gamecocks drop a 66-63 decision last night. My wife thinks that they're cursed by the devil because that's two straight games that they've lost 66-63, and there's 3 sixes in those scores. She was joking, but anyway, it seemed that way, didn't it? I'll say this generally. I liked the pace and all that. I think that's kind of what this team needs to be doing for the second straight game. Um, Morgasugasug obviously shot it well. There were some individual performances that were good. The officiating in SEC basketball continue or college basketball continues to be frustrating. I think technology has exposed a lot of bad officials in a lot of sports. I'll just say that generally, but I'm not blaming them or anybody for that loss. South Carolina shot themselves in the foot over and over and over and over. How many turnover? 20. I stopped counting 25 turnovers, and there's a turnover at the end. I mean, guy hits a shot late and one, and they win the game. And the Gamecocks fought hard. I didn't see a lack of like effort or spirit or all that, but it was just sloppy basketball. And sometimes this team will not play sloppy. Far too often it does. And you start kind of wondering, if you don't beat Oklahoma Saturday, and that's a tall task. 0-5 is a big hole with what's ahead for this basketball team. And you do see around the SEC other teams starting to kind of get up off the mat. I mean, I don't know if we've all followed it this week or not, but look at the results. Texas finally won at Oklahoma, so Oklahoma is going to be looking for their first conference win, and it's out there. You'd feel better if it was at home. I mean, this schedule just does not set up well for Carolina. But just so you know, on Tuesday, Ole Miss went to Alabama and won. I talked about that yesterday, 74-64. Missouri uh, came back and beat Florida. Came back kind of late after blowing a big lead and beat Florida. LSU at home sends Coach Cal to 0-4 in the league, 78-74 win against Arkansas. So, man, I just don't know. You're starting to look around. Everybody else has kind of gotten up off the mat. And yeah, Carolina had Auburn done, beat, dead to right, missed two free throws. Last night, just turnover machines. Uh, this team, as far as matching up in this league this year, um, they're going to have to play. Because I get turnover. You don't ever want to have that many turnovers. That was ridiculous. But you're going to have turnovers. It happens. And basketball's an up and down game. I mean, football, you have a game with three turnovers, you're gonna pay the price most of the time. Most of the time, not all of the time. But then you go in basketball, if you have a night with five or six turnovers, you're fine. So but last night was unacceptable. But you have to play if you're the Gamecocks, closer to perfect than not perfect in this league this year. And I think everybody to a certain extent does. If you could just turn it on and off with talent, Arkansas would not be 0-4. I mean, he's got a bunch of ballers out there, and so I just you just kind of wonder. You just kind of wonder. Auburn's a great team. Vandy's much improved and well coached. I thought Carolina fought hard. Felt bad for Lamont Paris in a lot of ways last night. I feel bad for him this year because it just looks like he's got a team that there were some expectations there for certain players that have kind of blown up on him a little bit, and then because those players probably aren't as what they thought, then you have to go with reserves or you have to just live with it. So thank goodness for Morris Ugasuk. Good scoring night for him and all that. So, but I don't want to get into specifics on the players. I will at some point. But Cam Scott scoring 5 points was positive. I think that's a step in the right direction. Arden Conyers had 10 again, so double figure score. He gives you some oomph. I'll say that about those two guys. And so we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Oklahoma game, I never like to use the term must win, but it's as close to one as you can get. They're 0-4. They were picked last, which is almost better than being picked 11th, right? Uh, and but it's out there. See, I would gals, I would be a little bit more encouraged, even at 0-4, if like let's say Carolina played Mississippi State at home and dropped a real close one. Well, they're pretty good. And then they had to go at Auburn, at Alabama. All right, that's good. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say I would be encouraged because I wouldn't because I lost to Vandy. Let me back that up. I think it would have been better for this team had it been flipped because I think at home against Vandy and Oklahoma, Carolina's got a chance. I think at home against Mississippi State in the SEC opener, it's not a blowout. But those teams are on the road, and it's tougher to win on the road in college basketball. And then you get two legit top five teams, whatever lost to Ole Miss or whatever by Bama notwithstanding. So there's a reason Derek Scott told us on the show Lamont was none too happy about the schedule, and that also took two home games against great elite teams. It shoved it into the not when the students weren't there. That was another reason the crowd was really pro Auburn at times the other day and stuff. By the way, on that note, I don't blame the fans. I understand the frustration of some people about the crowds at the Colonial Life Arena, but I don't. That type of it was a perfect storm for Auburn to take over the arena, so to speak. And so I don't. It's embarrassing. There's no way to spin that. But I don't think I'm not going to call the fans an embarrassment. It kind of just is what it is. No students, pad start. Saturday afternoon, lots to do, honey-do lists. It was a little the weather. It was kind of chilly, Let's just pack it in and make some soup and watch it on TV. I mean, that's kind of how it is. All right, I'm going to wrap up here on coffee, and we're very excited to bring you an announcement later today about Inside the Gamecocks, the show, and sort of a formatting change, which I think many of you will appreciate and like. Some won't, but that's fine. Gamecock women tonight, number 2 in the country behind UCLA. UCLA won last night in a Big Ten game, 83-67. Sounds weird against Penn State. Sounds weird to say, Big Ten game for them. But they go to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Bama 16-2 overall, 3-1 in the SEC, ranked 19th. So top 20 showdown in T-Town at Coleman Coliseum for the Gamecock women and Dawn Staley this evening. All right, I'll be back on Inside the Gamecocks, the show later today, 11-2. Once again, we got an announcement to make. Chief Sports South Carolina YouTube page, thebigspur.com. You know where to check it out. This has been Coffee with J.C. Shurburtt.